want to bring in Francis Ngannou. Francis, come here, ESPN, ESPN.
Is this your next fight?
I'm the boxing heavyweight champion, UFC heavyweight champion. He's in great shape. Look at the muscles on him.
And we're going to find out who is the baddest on the planet.
Good man, Francis.
Yeah.
We apologize for the language.
At the moment, so
I get a couple months, then I'll be right back on my feet.
We'll speak. He's a good-looking Javi, isn't he?
Will we see it in the octagon or will we see it in the ring?
Yeah,
Good job.
Octagon or ring?
Well, this is going to be a very special fight, like never before seen in the history of our sport. You know, we're not talking two light guys, 140 pounds. I'm 170, he's 270 pounds, so it's going to be an explosive fight when it happens.
It's going to be a hybrid fight with different type of rules.
Yes.
You know, MMA gloves in the ring, kind of like make something a little different.
Mike Tyson, Tyson Fury, and Francis Ngannou not one to mix it up. Here we go. We'll see what happens when they step into the ring, octagon, or whatever it is.
Hey guys, welcome back to Corey Has Spoken. You're with me again on my ride to work. So listen, I got up this morning, there was an article on ESPN saying that the Ngannou-Fury fight is about a 70% match. And they're talking about wanting to do this in like a mixed rule set, something to make Tyson Fury, the boxer, feel somewhat uncomfortable, meaning either MMA gloves or either have the fight in bare feet, that sort of thing. You know, it's going to be a mixed rules sort of scenario. But what I find more interesting as I process all of this, because I did watch the Tyson Fury boxing match the other night, and I was shocked when Francis Ngannou ended up in the ring after that fight was over with. Now, something I didn't think about at the time when I did my first video was that when Francis Ngannou fought Ciryl Gane a couple of months back and defended his title, you know, that was his last fight on his contract. And of course, since then, he's had knee surgery. So he's not signed a new contract with the UFC. All right. Now, Dana has been open about only doing these crossover boxing matches unless it generated the sort of interest that was generated in something like Conor and Mayweather. That made so much. In other words, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. That thing was due and set to make so much freaking money. You know, so many people wanted to see it. Dana had to do it. He had to jump in there and co-promote that. There was just, you know, too many dollars to be made to deny it. So he did, and obviously it was a huge, huge success. Now, up until now, I don't think that you know, Dana really felt like the Tyson Fury and Ngannou fight was going to be the same sort of big draw and was going to attract the same sort of interest. But I'm thinking that may have changed, and I'm going to tell you some reasons why. So you guys remember when Ngannou defended his belt against Ciryl Gane recently, and there was a lot of talks. Maybe you heard about it, maybe you didn't. If you're an MMA fanatic like myself, you probably heard of it, where there was some threatening of Ngannou's management team of the UFC suing them, like prior to him going into that fight, literally like on the way to the arena or something crazy. They had received an email and there was a threat of them possibly suing them because they had breached contract. Well, what was the breach of contract? The breach of contract was that they had supposedly been in talks with Tyson Fury. See, Dana White, when he signs these fighters to contracts, they are exclusive contracts, which means they can't go do some, you know, crossover boxing match or, you know, run down the street and fight some guy on the corner in some little sanctioned match for side money. You can't do that. Well, why can't you do that? The reason you can't do that is because he's protecting his investment. The UFC is investing all kinds of money, promotional and otherwise. You know, the athletic training center for the UFC, they invest all of this money back into the business and back into their fighters. So they don't want you to go, you know, do some, you know, some crossover boxing match, get injured or come back with CTE or broken hand or whatever it is, then you can't finish out the fights on your UFC contract, and they lose money. Dana White does not like to lose money. Well, I got to thinking about it the other day, and I was like, has something changed? Something must have changed. There must have been some sort of talks with Dana. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be Dana, because after December, Francis Ngannou is going to be a free agent. But here's the thing. What's he going to do after he boxes Tyson Fury? Dana has to be in this conversation, is what I'm trying to say. Because Ngannou's future, unless he just goes into boxing and starts boxing who? Dillian White? Who's he going to box? Deontay Wilder? I mean, there's some possibilities there, but, he is an MMA fighter. That's what Ngannou does, and that's how he's come to be known. So Dana is going to have to be involved in this equation. So I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but I'm trying to make my point here. So something must have changed. They must have been in some sort of contact since the Ciryl Gane fight, and since being threatened to be sued for talking to Fury's team and all this other stuff. They must have had some somewhat fruitful or productive conversations with the UFC. Because if he hadn't, Francis Ngannou, I don't think would have gotten in the ring the other day after Tyson Fury won his fight and been publicly in front of the whole world talking about this possible fight between himself and Fury. I think he was given permission to do that. Because if this is something that's going to make a lot of money, then Dana wants to be a part of it. Just like he was with Conor and Mayweather. There was no way he was not going to be a part of that. Dana's one of the, if not the biggest fight promoter in the world right now. Literally. Dana's probably the biggest fight promoter in the world, including anyone that does it in boxing, Bellator, One Championship, any fight promotion you can name. Dana's the biggest. He is the biggest fight promoter. And so, for the biggest fights, you need who? The biggest fight promoter. You need the marketing and promotion machine of the UFC to really make that happen. And of course, this article that I saw this morning on ESPN was Francis Ngannou talking about they felt like there was ways that they were going to make it happen, that there was a 70% chance that his next fight would be the British boxer Tyson Fury, and it would be probably sometime in 2023. Well, we know that Ngannou's contract with the UFC is not up until December. That's when he's a free agent. He's recently had knee surgery. Everyone knows his knees were shot in his fight with Ciryl Gane, so he's had knee surgery since. So he can't fight before December. What's going to happen after December? Well, I tell you what's going to happen. What's going to happen is Francis is going to re-sign with the UFC, but it's going to have a boxing crossover clause in it. Now, they've talked about this boxing crossover clause for a long time, and pretty much Francis has refused to re-sign his contract, pretty much, without this boxing clause. And I think that his getting in the ring with Tyson Fury the other day was their attempt to gain more interest. And I think it's worked. I can't tell you how many articles I've seen on it. I'm sitting here doing a video about it. Everybody, Chael Sonnen, Jesse on Fire, all the guys doing, MMA podcast sort of work. They're talking about it. We're all talking about it. So I think the interest is there. I think the interest is starting to snowball. I think it's starting to pick up speed, starting to pick up steam. But I think something has changed. I think they must have had some somewhat fruitful and productive conversations with the UFC about this. And I think the UFC has, at least verbally, given their approval, saying, hey, okay, maybe they said, hey, go ahead and mention it. Do that. Do what you talked about. Francis get in the ring after the fight. The UFC may have given Francis permission to do this. Get in there, talk about it, and then let, in days and weeks following. Let's look at the analytics. Let's check the Google searches. Let's see what kind of interest is being garnered in this particular fight, and then maybe they'll move on from there. But I think what they're looking to do is go ahead and re-sign Francis, but there's going to be some clause in there that allows him to go do this crossover fight, because then everybody's happy. Francis gets to make that big payday that he wants, and the UFC gets to get a piece of it. Dana likes money, man. I'm not saying he's money hungry, but if it makes dollars, it makes sense. So anyway, that's what I got. I've been, processing this whole thing a little more, and I think that's maybe what's going on. I think that, the UFC has put their at least verbal stamp of approval on this to kind of see where it goes and see if they can actually get something in ink. That's what I think. But anyway, appreciate you guys listening. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next time. This is Corey, out.